Hey, fourth grade, today we're going to be doing some review with addition and subtraction strategies. And I'm going to go over two different ways that you can use your addition and subtraction. And you may be familiar with these, and you may even have different strategies that work best for you. But for today, for addition, we're going to start with standard and place value. For standard, I'm going to set up the problem with the biggest number on top. So 800, 1,234. And I'm going to set my smaller number underneath. And I'm going to be sure I'm careful about lining up my place values. So 163,678. Now, all of my place values are in line with each other, so I know which numbers I'm adding together for sure. 8 plus 4 is 12. Well, I can only have one digit in my place, and I know that when I get a 10 or more, then I carry that 10 over to the next place. So I'm going to drop the 2 out of 12, and I'm going to carry the 1 that's in the 10. Now I do 7 plus 3, and I know that's 10, and when I add one more, that's 11. So I've dropped the 1, and I carry the other 1 to show that 10 out of 11. Now I do 6 plus 2, and that's 8, and 8 plus 1 is 9. Next I have 3 plus 1, and I didn't carry anything over, so it's just 3 plus 1. And I know that that 4 is also in the thousands place, so I'm going to go ahead and put my comma there. 6 plus 0 is 6, and 8 plus 1 is 9. So using standard form, I got the answer of 964,912. The next strategy I'm going to use is the place value strategy. And even though this is a different strategy and a different way to add, in the end, I should still get the same answer as what I got for my standard form. Now for place value, I'm only going to be adding the places together one by one. So I'm going to start in the ones place. I'm going to start with 8 plus 4, and since it's in the ones place, it's just 8 and 4 by itself. So 8 plus 4, and I know that that equals 12. Next, I'm moving on to the tens place. So the 7 and the 3 isn't just 7 and 3, it's 70 plus 30. And I know 70 plus 30 is equal to 100. Next, I'm going to go to the hundreds place, and I see 600 plus 200. And I know 600 plus 200 is 800. Next, I'm going to go to the thousands place, and I see 3,000 plus 1,000. And I know 3,000 plus 1,000 is 4,000. Next, I'm going to go to the 10,000s place, and I see 60,000, but I see a 0 here. So really, that's going to give me an answer of just 60,000, but to keep track for myself, I'm going to do plus 0. So 60,000 plus 0. And 60,000 plus 0 is just 60,000. Last, I'm going to do my 100,000s place, and I see 100,000 plus 800,000. And I know that 100,000 plus 800,000 equals 900,000. So now that I have come up with all of these answers, I'm going to set those all up to add together. I'm going to start with the biggest number first. So 900,000. Then I'm going to go to 60,000. And I'm being careful about lining up my place values because that's going to affect me when I add if I put them in the wrong place. Then 4,000. Then 800. Then 100. Then 12. Now I have to add these all back up together because I initially took them all apart. So I separated each place value into its own place, and now I have to put all of those place values back together. So that's why I'm adding those all back up. 12 plus all of these zeros is 12, and I did 12 together because 1 is also in line with all of these zeros. You can do it by itself, but I saw that these two numbers were in line with 0, so they're just going to stay the same. 8 plus 1 plus all of these zeros is going to be 9. And then I see I'm moving to the thousands place, so I'm going to go ahead and put my comma. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 0 is 6. And 9 plus nothing is 9. So I get an answer of 964,912. And if you look to see, my answers match on both sides, even though I use two different strategies. So these are two strategies that you can use for addition. The next strategies I'm going to show you work for subtraction. So I'm going to switch my pages here. And just like with addition, I'm going to start with the standard form for subtraction. So I'm going to, again, set my problem up with the bigger number on top. So 1,680,060 minus 636,173. And just like for addition, I have to make sure that I set up my place values so that they match. Starting off, I automatically see 0 minus 3, and I know that I can't take away from 0. So that means I have to go to my next door neighbor and borrow from 6. So I borrow a set of 10 from 6, and that 10 takes it down to 5. And now that 10 can transfer over to my 0. Now I can do 10 minus 3, and that gets me 7. But then I look at my neighbor again, and I see that 5 doesn't work when I try to take 7 away from it. So I'm going to have to borrow from my neighbors. But I can't borrow anything from 0, and I can't borrow anything from this 0. So I have to go all the way over to my neighbor 8 and borrow 1 from 8. Now, a helpful trick for me is I know that I'm going to have to borrow 1 from each of these zeros. So I'm not going to change this to 10. I'm going to go ahead and change this to 9 because I'm going to have to take 1 from each. So that way my 5 can be a bigger number than 7. So I change those instead of changing them to 10s and then crossing those out and changing them to 9s. I just went ahead and skipped the middle and changed them to 9s. 15 minus 7 is 8. 9 minus 1 is 8. 9 minus 6 is 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. 6 minus 6 is 0. And 1 minus nothing is 1. And I put my comma to represent that millions place. So now I'm going to kind of go backwards. For adding up, I'm going to start with the smaller number, and I'm going to work my way up to my bigger number. So I'm going to start with 636,173, and I need to think about, what can I add together to get to 1,680,060? So kind of like with place value, I'm going to go one place at a time. So I'm thinking about how can I get this 3 to change into a 0? Because I want these two numbers to match by the end. So I know that to get this number to 0, I need to add 7 because that's going to create a 10 there. So I'm going to start by adding 636,173 plus 7. And I'm going to underline it just to keep track of myself. Now I'm up to 636,180 because I'm adding that 7 to 3, so it creates a 10. So now I'm trying to get this 8 to turn into a 6. Well, I know that 8 plus 8 is 16, and that's going to change that 8 to a 6. So I'm going to add 80 here. Now my number's up to 636,260. Now I'm going to the next place. I'm going to the hundreds place, and I've got to get this 2 to a 0. So similar to the 3 to a 0, I'm going to add 8 to this 2. And to get 8 all the way over here, I have to add 800 so that it adds in the correct place. And I'm doing 800 because the zeros won't change the numbers I've already changed. So 636,000 plus 260 plus 800 equals 637,060. So slowly but surely my numbers are all matching. Now I've got to figure out what to add to get my thousands place to 0. And I know 7 plus 3 gets me 10, so I'm going to add 3,000. That equals 640,060. So I'm getting really close, and now I have to match the 10,000s place. And I know 4 plus 4 is 8, so I'm going to add 40,000 here. And that gets me to 680,060. Now, all of my numbers match so far. So now I have to figure out how am I going to get a millions into this number. Well, all I know I need to do is add 1 million here. So I'm going to add 1 million to my number. And that's going to create a total for me of 1,680,060. Now I've created my numbers to match. So now I have to go back through and figure out what I've added together and total it all. And that answer should match the answer I got from my standard form. So I'm going to start with my bigger number again, and I'm going to do 1 million plus 40,000 plus 3,000 plus 800 plus 80 plus 7. And again, just like with addition, when I did place value with addition, I have to make sure that all of my place values are in line with each other. Because if they're not, when I go to add or even when I go to subtract, that's going to mess up my math and my calculations. So I have to make sure everything is in order. And it doesn't matter if you want to start with the smallest number on top and work down to the biggest. I just like starting with the biggest so I see where my place values line up. So now I'm going to go back and add 7 plus all these zeros is 7. 8 plus all these zeros is 8. 8 plus all these zeros is 8. 3 plus 0 is 3. And I'm in the thousands, so I'm going to put my comma. 4 plus 0 is 4. 0 by itself is 0. And 1 by itself is 1, and I'm in the millions. So I'm going to make sure that I put my comma. Now, when I look at both of my answers, I see that for adding up and for standard, I got 1,043,887. Now, just like with adding these two strategies, if they work for you, that's so awesome. And if you've learned something new, that makes me so excited. But if you have another strategy that works best for you, please feel free to use that. So now what we're going to do is you're going to click on the next link, and it's going to go over some problems. And I'm going to be using standard form, but I want you to check with me after you have worked them out yourself.